Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Sinathlon and welcome to the 2020 AISTS Client Team Project Presentations. I'm Michael Broadley. I will be your MC for the next 2 days, where we will see 11 project presentations by current participants in the Masters of Advanced Studies in Sports Administration and Technology. Over the last 7.5 months or so, each team has been conducting in-depth research for a client in the world of sport, and it's a key deliverable in their master's studies. Each team will have 20 minutes to present, maximum 20 minutes to present. You got scared then. Maximum of 20 minutes to present, then they will field a maximum of 15 minutes questions from our panel, evaluation panel today. I'll quickly introduce our panelists. We have Dr. Juan Carlos Landrove of Landrove Law and head of the law module. We have Dr. Boris Gojanovic, who is the head of health and performance at the Hôpital de la Tour in Genève and head of the medicine module here at the Academy. Of course, executive director at AISTS, Dr. Claude Stricker. We have joining us from France, the University of Lorraine, Professor Bjorn Walliser, and head of the marketing module here at the Academy. And last but not least, we have Dr. Giovanni Battista Decchi, who is a professor in control management at the École Hôtelière de Lausanne and also a scientific advisor to the Academy. So a very warm welcome, team. Thank you for being here. I hope you had a good hearty breakfast and the double espressos are in the system, ready for the day ahead. So we start this morning with a project for the International Olympic Committee, looking at current resources available to Entourage and how to best support athletes through the lens of the Athletes Entourage Commission. And we're delighted to welcome from the IOC, Rita Ahmed, who is the Engagement and Relationship Manager. And we have Arthur Milroy, who is the Athletes Entourage Commission Coordinator, who will join us in a second. So just before I start, a couple of housekeeping notes, please. If you could keep your laptops and mobile devices on silent, just out of respect for our speakers. And we also are streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. Hello to everybody out there. And also, if you could avoid going in and out of the room during the presentations, that would be highly appreciated. So that's enough from me, and we're very much looking forward to the first presentation of the day. And I give you the floor, Carolina. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Can I have the clickers? Well, morning, everybody. We're very excited to be the first class of 2020 to present today. So let's get started. Does anyone in the room know what Entourage is? Okay, I see a few hands up, a few blank faces. Well, Entourage, any of you in this room today can be considered Entourage, because Entourage comprise all individuals associated with the athlete. So this includes family members, doctors, lawyers, managers, sponsors, anyone that has an interest with the athlete. So for example, Claude, you're a father, you're an Entourage member. Boris, you're a doctor, you're also an Entourage member. So it's safe to say that without all these individuals, athletes wouldn't have the same success in their career. And these Entourage members always have the best interest for the athlete at heart. So it's clear that Entourage play a vital role in the success of an athlete on and off the field. And this is why we've been tasked to analyze the Athlete Entourage Commission, its current resources available to Entourage members, and create recommendations for them. Just a quick info about our team. We come from different countries, and we've been able to relate really well to this project because we have some athletes among us who have become key Entourage members in their post-athletic career. So moving on, for those of you who are not aware of the Athlete Entourage Commission, we'll refer to it as the AEC throughout this presentation. And it's a commission within the IOC Sports Department, which caters to Entourage, and its mission is to improve the quality and level of services to athletes by engaging and uniting all its stakeholders. So in other words, Entourage members are the team behind the athletes, and the Athlete Entourage Commission is the team behind this team. And the AEC works towards a 4-year plan. This has been the main focus and foundation of our report, and we'll talk about this during the results and recommendations section. The 4-year plan has 5 main priorities. The first one regarding awareness of entourage. The second one, collaborating with the IOC Athletes Commission. The third one regarding promotion of qualified entourage. The fourth one is gender equality, of which we have a great representation in our team today. And the last one regarding safeguarding athletes from harassment and abuse. So moving on to our first task during the project was to gather all these individuals and put them into different groups. And we have come up with the 5 groups that you can see behind me. This is also the grouping on which we did our literature review. And furthermore, I'll pass on to Adarsh, who will talk to us about landscaping, another big pillar of our project.
Thank you, Carolina. As you mentioned, it's turned out to be a big pillar and an asset for a project. So this was a study that was done across 40 Olympic sports international federations, the ANOC and Continental Olympic Associations. So this was basically carried out to understand the key focus areas and what resources are available for the various athletes' entourage. So this was done by looking into these federations. What we did was we started looking into the existence of AECs in these organizations and also various other commissions which cater to the various entourage groups. We also mapped the tools and resources which were made available in the form of toolkits, videos, documents, and whatnot, and they were mapped back into these federations and the entourage groups. So this cross-case analysis created a benchmark of what information is available currently to the entourage members. What this also did was it also created a baseline for the AEC to know what information is available and what is not. Thereby, this would be guiding them to decide on which areas to focus on. And then moving on to the methodology, we decided to opt with a qualitative approach. We did this because we felt that it would be better to get in-depth perspective of the members. And this was done in 2 steps, online surveys and one-on-one interviews. The online survey was an online questionnaire, which was common to all the respondents. And based on the responses of the survey, during the one-on-one interviews, we dug deep and went into the specifics to get the perspective of entourage members, depending on the entourage group they belong to, their nationality, their background, and the sports they belong to. So this graph, as you can see, clearly shows the representation of our respondents and the entourage group they belong to. And we are very glad that we had a diverse group of respondents in terms of the entourage group they belong, because this helped us understand various things from the perspectives of different entourage groups, and thereby helped us developing recommendations for different entourage groups. So that's the number of people who've been surveyed and interviewed. So that's the background and base of our project. So we'll be moving on to the recommendations which we built during the course of the project. And before I do that, I think it's important to let you know how we arrived there. So as Carolina mentioned, the 5 priorities are a pillar of our project. So the online questionnaire and the interview questions, they were kind of pivoted on the 5 priorities. And then the data collected from the interviews and surveys, they were merged and coded. Thereby, we identified recurring themes, which were eventually converted into recommendations. As you can see in the handouts that's given to you, we have multiple recommendations for each priority, as these recommendations were mapped back to the priorities. For the sake of time constraints, we wouldn't be talking about all the recommendations. We've cherry-picked a few recommendations which we think have a bigger impact on the 5 priorities. As you can see, we would be presenting those recommendations. And moving on to priority 1, we will be presenting about 2 recommendations. And priority 1 is something that talks about the awareness of athletes' entourage within the Olympic movement. So we came up with this recurring theme. And when we started interviewing people, there was one theme that we come across, which was the members of the AEC. They wanted to contribute a lot towards the commission, but they met once a year and there was not a lot of follow-up meetings post that. So what they wanted was they needed to know what they need to do to better support the entourage community. And thereby we came up with this recommendation of creating action plans for entourage groups and increase the interaction between the members. So this enables the AEC to get the most out of the athletes' entourage commission members, and thereby serving the entourage community, as I just mentioned. So the next recommendation, we would greatly attribute this to the diversity of the respondents we got, because without which it wouldn't have been possible to identify this recurring theme. So what we came across, because of the nationality, sports, and geographies the respondents belong to, we realized that there were different needs in different parts of the world and different sports. So one recurring theme that was identified was a no one-size-fits-all approach needs to be adopted, because each NOC has their own requirements and what they need to cater to, their people and their sports. Another thing that was identified was the language barrier, which is language is an important tool for communication. So thereby we came up with this recommendation of adapting the context to the continent. So what we feel this does is it helps overcome the first issue, because no one message has the same connotation throughout the world. So adapting the context would help overcome this issue. And also, as I just mentioned, language is a key communication tool. And it's better if the content is communicated in the local language in different parts of the world. Thereby, it would increase the reach of the message. So our recommendation is that AEC would develop the set of messages that they want to be delivered. This would then be disseminated into the NOCs, and they would be delivering these messages locally. So this could also be done using local heroes who could provide to be a source of inspiration, thereby increasing the reach of the message. So that's with the second recommendation. And we are proud to say that this recommendation, the previous one, has already been implemented. And then I'll move the floor on to Gina.
Thank you, Adarsh. Now moving on to priority number 2, we have one recommendation prepared. So priority number 2 is to collaborate with the IOC Athletes Commission. And it was frequently mentioned throughout our data collection that there should be more interaction between the Athletes Commission and the Athletes Entourage Commission. Keeping in mind that the primary goal of the two commissions are the same, which is to better support the athletes, it was frequently mentioned that the efforts were often duplicated without notice. So our recommendation for this theme is to create working groups within the joint AC and AC meetings. Joint meetings between these two commissions do exist annually, as Adarsh has mentioned previously before. But in order to increase the synergy, we could allocate working groups which has both members of the Athletes Commission and the Entourage Commission, and they could be allocated with specific topics or issues that both athletes and entourage could face together. So because they would be working more closely with each other, they would be more aware of what's going on in each other's commissions. Therefore, it would reduce the duplication, and it could also result in more frequent meetings within the working groups. Moving on to priority number 3, we have 2 recommendations to present. So priority number 3 is to support and promote the importance of having educated and qualified entourage. And especially for the friends and family entourage group, it was frequently mentioned that the information catering to them should be practical everyday information and easy to see and easy to access. So for this theme, we have come up with recommendation number 8, which is to provide practical everyday information for this group to better support their athletes. So these information would be provided in the Athlete 365 website for easy access, and it could be in the form of simple Q&As, online courses, videos, something that is easy to see. And these are some prospective questions that could be on the Q&A section. For example, number 1, how can I assist my child with study planning? Number 2, how can I offer mental support as a friend? And number 3, how should I talk in front of the media as a mom or a dad? And so on. Moving on to the next recurring theme, it was regarding performance entourage. It was also frequently mentioned by our respondents that there should be more educational content that caters to coaches. So for this, we have come up with this recommendation, which is to have online courses catering to performance entourages on general key issues. So any entourage that has to do with the performance of an athlete would have access to these online courses, and they would be educated on general key issues such as safeguarding the athletes from harassment and abuse, anti-doping, career transitioning for athletes, and etc. So the information would have to be general because Athlete 365 is a platform where entourages from all different sports and countries have access to. So having more generic information was necessary. Moving on to the 4th priority, we have also 2 recommendations prepared. So priority number 4 is to support the achievement of gender equality. And we are all aware that gender equality is still a concurrent issue that needs to be resolved in the sporting world. So it was frequently mentioned by many of our respondents that there should be more promotion of success stories of female entourages so that women from all over the world could feel inspired and empowered by these stories and potentially strive to becoming like them. Hence the quote over here, what you can't see, you can't be, which was mentioned by one of our respondents. So our recommendation for this was to provide these successful stories of female entourages on the Athlete 365 website. So we could start off by having a brief summary of the potential candidate's career, explaining their success, their achievements, and how they got there, also followed up by an interview so that they can share their experiences to a more personal level. Moving on to the next current theme, a recurring theme, was to implement a clear pathway for athletes to transition from being an athlete to being a technical official or a coach. So our recommendation for this recurring theme is to provide scholarship programs to female coaches and technical officials. Educational online courses regarding coaches or technical officials do exist in many IFs. So if, for example, if you're a coach who is in level 2 who wants to move on to level 3, you could apply for this scholarship. Or if you're an athlete who wants to transition into becoming a coach or a technical official, you can also apply for this scholarship. And with the potential help of the Olympic Solidarity, you will be supported sufficiently. And by this, we would be supporting the achievement of gender equality. Moving on, Mark will.
Thank you, Gina. I will be talking about priority number 5, which is with regards to safeguarding. We have 2 recommendations, as you can see behind. The first one is the reoccurring, we came from a reoccurring theme that through the interviews and surveys, we found that 1/3 of the AEC members mentioned that there was a need to have a hotline service both for athletes and entourage members. We did find that throughout the landscaping that some international federations, such as the Judo Federation and different NOCs, provide good online reporting systems, but they do not have a hotline service very much out there, and it's very difficult to find. Therefore, having a 24/7 helpline service at a national level in the Athlete 365 platform will be very beneficial in order to receive feedback from a professional, and sometimes even proceeding to avoiding the problem of sexual harassment, manipulation, or abuse. The next recommendation is one that actually didn't arise from any interview or survey conducted. This one arose from the coronavirus, as you all know, outbreak. The Athlete 365 platform collaborated together with the World Health Organization and provided a WhatsApp platform in order for athletes and entourage members to go in and find different Q&As, news, latest information, and even have some quizzes. We then, as a team, brainstormed and understood that since the demographics of the athletes and entourage members is younger and younger, having a platform for people to go on and just even playing around with and seeing what's out there and have different Q&As and such would really improve and rise the awareness of different topics of safeguarding. So for now, this is it in the recommendations. We'll be talking about the limitations that we had throughout the project. Of course, throughout the conduction of the data collection, we were only able to do internal data collection. This did give us very good, thorough information, knowledge. However, in order to understand whether the proposed recommendations were successful or not, having an external analysis in the future may be very beneficial for the AEC. Next was that 55% of the AEC members conducted data collection. This number could be slightly more improved. And finally, the coronavirus, as you all know, it's a limitation not just for us, but for everyone. We as a team, the supervisor and the client had to go home, and we had to work remotely, and we had to adapt to the new settings during the project. Behind me, you see a feasibility graph. This is the difficulty to implement versus time to implement. The recommendations we plotted as a team where we felt were more appropriate. Each recommendation, we analyzed whether different resources were available and whether the internal or external stakeholders were involved. We then plotted it where we felt was more adequate for the AEC to see. In green, you see the ones that have been implemented or are in the process of implementation. In yellow is in the pipeline to do so. And in blue, there has been no action thus far. So to conclude this project, it is important to understand that an athlete's entourage is there to support the athlete on and off the field, but it's also there to make the Olympic movement a safer environment. So by adopting the proposed recommendations, the AEC will be able to support and give the necessary resources and tools to support and empower an athlete's entourage. By promoting the importance of an athlete's entourage, will make this Olympic movement a safer environment and be one step closer to achieving the ultimate goals of Olympism, which are excellence, respect, and friendship. On behalf of the AISTS team, we want to thank Michael Broadley, the client, and all of the AEC members to support us throughout this journey. So thank you very much for your time.